I'd like to welcome journalist Richelle Carey to Amplified. Richelle, welcome. Okay, so
Thank you.
your tweets over the past couple of days say everything. Let's just start with the first one. You say, I was so excited when my mail-in ballot was received and approved. And then you go on to clarify, that's when my mail-in ballot in 2020 was received and approved. I was so relieved and happy. I want to start off by talking about your process of voting before SB1. Don't give us any spoilers yet, because we're going to get to the troublesome part next. But give us a sense of what that was like for you in 2020.
So in 2020, I was actually living out of the country. So, and I wasn't, at that point, I was contemplating moving back to the US, but I didn't know when I was going to. So obviously I did not want to miss November 2020. So I got out ahead of it and I applied for a ballot from overseas, and I eventually got the ballot emailed to me rather, voted, mailed it back in. Eventually, but actually ended up moving home a few months after that, moving back to Texas. You said no spoilers, so I'll park that one for a moment. Okay, so I moved back home, and at this point, there's a website that you keep checking to make sure that your ballot that you've mailed has actually been received and approved. And I kept checking, and it took quite a while. So I actually was thinking, if it isn't here, I'm going to need to go vote in person in November. But eventually, in October of 2020, I actually have a screenshot, which you saw, which the vote, it was approved, accepted. So as far as I knew, everything was good. I'm a registered voter. And then at this point, I'm back in Texas thinking, going forward, I'm registered, everything is fine. I voted from out of the country, so there should be no issues going forward.
Whew, and good thing that actually worked, because God forbid you would have just showed up at the polls anyway. Who knows what went down if they had already received a ballot from you and then you show up in person. Oh,
yes.
So, okay, now let's go to the third tweet that you posted, where you say, I went to vote in the primary in Texas today. My voter registration was canceled. Don't know when or why. I'm actually not surprised. What I am is angry. Voting should not be hard, complicated, or a crapshoot when you show up at a polling place. Take us through all of that. Oh, what happened?
So, when I went to vote, I can honestly say I was nervous and anxious, and it shouldn't be that way. But I did feel that way going to vote on Tuesday, because I know what's been happening in my state, and I thought anything could go wrong. I wouldn't say stressed, but I was a bit anxious. And sure enough, I showed them my ID, and I could see on this computer screen that it's not coming up like it's supposed to. So God bless the little poll worker. I swear he couldn't have been 20 years old. And he was so nervous and apologetic. And he kept saying, let me try again. And it wouldn't come up. And I was like, sweetie, it's okay. So he went to get help. And the poll worker that he got, long story short, she made a phone call. And the person on the phone told her that my registration had been canceled. Didn't have any further explanation. Didn't have a when, a why, and nothing. And I was just...
Wow.
Not shocked, but just like, this is actually happening to me. I've heard that this could happen. I've heard of it happening to others. Happened to me. So I left. Obviously upset. As you saw, I started tweeting. And eventually, so the nice woman at the polling place actually gave me... Oh, I'm sorry. Jump in. Go right ahead.
Oh, no, I'm just curious. So you were telling us that when you voted absentee, that you were out of the country, not sure when you were coming back. Talk about what you marked on your ballot when you left the country back in 2020, and how you think that might have impacted your registration.
I'm not sure that it did. I don't know that I was targeted because of the way I voted. It's possible. I didn't make that leap. I think it's more that I think that voting is so difficult and complicated, and loopholes and this and that and the other. And I think that's what the problem I ran into. Apparently, I was supposed to re-register when I moved back into the state. Who the heck knows that? If my ballot was accepted when I lived out of the country, why would I not think that when I'm physically at a polling place that my registration would be fine? Yeah, I made some more phone calls.
So on your ballot, you said that you didn't know when you were coming back. Is that what you said?
Exactly.
Indefinite, I don't know when I'm coming back, and that's why they perhaps...
On the application that you have to file to get them to send you the ballot, you have to basically making clear, I live out of the country, and there's a portion where it asks you, they're trying to figure out how long you're going to be out of the country. And I said indefinite because I wasn't sure when I was, exactly, you're following me, right? So apparently, if I had mailed another ballot from out of the country, allegedly that one still would have been okay. The issue is that I went to vote in person and had not re-registered in the state. Exactly. This is ridiculous. It should not be. And when this was explained to me, I said, so you're telling me that if I still mailed in a ballot from out of the country, you would have accepted it because I'm a registered voter. But now that I'm actually home, I didn't re-register, so I'm not a registered voter when I'm actually physically in my state. It's too complicated for anyone to actually have to navigate simply to go vote.
And you are in this situation. I mean, the politics of all this hot mess came personally to your doorstep, but you're also a journalist. And I wonder, when you put on your journalist hat, what's the headline on all of this?
The headline is that that voting is a bit of a gamble, that you don't know what you're going to get when you go to the polling place, whether you have ID, whether you think you are educated, smart, any of those things. You could be disenfranchised, and there's nothing at that moment that you can do about it. Now, I can register and be ready for November, but that doesn't make up for the fact that I couldn't cast my vote on Tuesday. And if you think it can't happen to you, it can happen to you. That is the headline.
My goodness, voting should not be a gamble. I mean, this incident with you is just one in the bigger saga around this new voting law. So is the law actually playing out the way that it was intended, in your opinion?
Possibly, yeah, because when I think about it, Aisha, I think about the fact that when I left, I was able to tweet because I had a platform. And then I had actually a couple of people, fairly high profile people, reach out to me and give me some guidance on make this call that person. Well, you know what? The average person who's disenfranchised doesn't have that. If they get turned away from a polling station, they're probably just going to leave and feel frustrated and wonder, what did I do? What could I have done? Et cetera, et cetera. And that's how this works. It's kind of death by 1,000, you know?
Yeah. I mean, it is a privilege to be able to have access and at least know the right phone numbers to call, and to frankly be able to be an advocate for yourself when all the other millions of people in that state may not have the same access, which is why we continue to amplify this conversation around what's happening with voter suppression in Texas and elsewhere. Richelle Carey, thank you so much for joining me tonight on Amplified and for sharing your experience. Really appreciate you.
Thank you.